Eddie, if Queensby make an approach for the Fury fight to happen next, would you entertain that?
It's up to AJ and to Derek. AJ's answer would be 100% yes. He was willing to take that fight in December, which was definitely the wrong time to take the fight. Derek James is 100% right. We should give him more time with Derek James, but at the same time, every time he fights, there's a big crowd, there's a big purse, you know, and people are going to want the right opponent. In an ideal world, sometimes in a trainer's ideal world, the opponent wouldn't be enough to satisfy the broadcasters and the gate and stuff like that. But it's got to get the mix right between who and how much, you know. But I don't think the public are necessarily going to want him to have another 2 fights at Jermaine Franklin level. They're going to want to see him step up, if that's Dillian Whyte, if that's Tyson Fury, if that's Wilder. And you know, those guys will fancy their chances against AJ because they'll think, oh, you know, it's a chance, he's not the fighter that he was, etc, etc. But I think AJ will box better against a high level of opposition, particularly people that are coming to win.
Quick word on Conor Benn, he came today and seemed to get a lot of love from the fans.
Loads. I mean, they're fantastic. Good for him. You know, not good for him, but good for him as well. But good for him. You know, and whatever you think of the situation, he has had an absolutely horrific time. Horrific, right? So tonight was great, and I think he'll feel really good. I know he had a bit of drama with TalkSport or whatever, but you know, at the end of the day, there's no point sitting indoors. You've got to go out in front of everybody, and that's what he done tonight. And I think he'll have a spring in his step.
Eddie, there's always an expectancy when Anthony Joshua comes out to fight, and the expectancy was for this, that because he came in at a career heaviest, that he would go in there and potentially blow him out in the first 4 rounds. Are you more tentative now putting him in with a Tyson Fury off the back of him going 12 rather than him going in there and getting the knockout?
I think he'd be an underdog against Tyson Fury for sure. And I don't think it was a performance that is going to make people think that he can definitely beat Tyson Fury, but I know he can box much better than that. I know against an opponent that's coming to win, he'll box much better than that. And I know next time he fights, he'll box much better than that. So, like I said, that fight's all about timing. And it's like, how long do you wait? If it's there, then it will be difficult not to take it.
You would take that over a Dillian Whyte if both offers on the table?
I mean, look, for me, like everybody else, yeah. But, you know, I think we can't just keep going, train a 1 fight into a big fight, train, you know, so it'll be up to Derek to sit down with AJ. But like I said, you know, in answer to that question, it's difficult to have those fights and drive the same interest. What might be right for the development of his career might not be right for the commercial numbers. So you've got to get the balance right.
Eddie, I'm sure you've seen the article from The Guardian today, who have actually talked about your conduct in the past in regards to previous drug tests, Chavez Jr., Demetrius Andrade, Joe Saunders and everything else. Do you want to give a response back in regards to that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a hatchet job for Don McRae. I've already written to him because it was a snide piece. Because he never asked me for a comment based on what people had said or incidents. He came up to me on a few separate occasions. If you want to talk about the Chavez fight, Chavez was not my fighter. The contract was not signed for Chavez against Danny Jacobs. Nevada Commission turned up to test Chavez, who hadn't signed any agreement for the fight, wasn't under any testing program, and basically said, what are you doing now? And said, I'm not being tested, I haven't even signed the contract. Not my fighter, not my responsibility. From there, Las Vegas had an investigation. Chavez said, whatever, I'm not fighting in Vegas, you can all do one. We made the fight in Phoenix, and he didn't want to work with Varden. So we asked for a reputable body, and I asked for the opinion of Victor Conte, who now seems to be this saviour of sport, biggest drug cheat in the history of sport, and now seems to have a vendetta against me. I've never even met him. So, you know, Leon Margolis, I texted him earlier, he said some nice words. He said, I'm the most arrogant, hated man in the industry. He texted me, he goes, but I do like you, they're all schnides. Do you know what I mean? But that article was a joke because he never even asked me to comment on what was said. And that's why I deleted his tweet, if you go and check what Don McRae did. He's a fantastic writer. So that's that situation. What was the other situation? I mean, you're free to ask me about any comments that Don McRae made in that piece.
He referenced in the piece, obviously previous interviews and things like that. I know they all get thrown at you all the time of things you've said in the past with regards to failed tests, that obviously Conor Benn wouldn't return to action until he was clear, or at least till he's had that due process. Now it looks like he is going to, by all accounts from your words and other people, trying to get him out in June. But I don't feel like we've had that conclusion yet. Do you know that we want to come in?
You've had that conclusion from the body and the programme that found him guilty, or sorry, that he had an adverse finding with. He went through that process. I said to Robert Smith tonight, we need to meet. ASAP. Yeah, okay. I said, well, do you want to try and move forward with this or not? Not really. Like, I don't feel like he'll get any kind of fair crack of the whip, to be honest with you. But nothing changes, in my opinion, of VADA. Like, they are the premium testing agency. But at the same time, he went to the people who control the testing. They have reinstated him in the rankings. The commissions are happy to license Conor Benn to move forward to fight because of the process that he went through with the WBC. Should he go through the process? I don't know how many times I have to say this. Should he go through the process with the BBFC? Yes. Can we get them to everybody drop their ego and sit down and have a sensible conversation? I hope so. I asked Robert Smith tonight to do that. Hopefully he comes back to me and allows that ball to start rolling.
That's the clean boxing programme test from the first test. What about the second test?
The second test is a VADA test as part of the camp, and WBC ruled over that as well. They've been in a situation where they made a ruling, reinstated him. When we spoke to the British Boxing Board of Control during this process, they told us that we acknowledge. I said to Robert Smith said to me, we don't acknowledge UK VADA testing, so I don't know what we're going to do. This is probably why they took 5 weeks. They should have had a hearing during that process. When Dillian White failed a test, and UCAD, yes, Rob, we know, they had a hearing within 2 days. Yet they had that information for 5 weeks and didn't have a hearing. Now they want to have a hearing. I agree. I think they should have a hearing.
Robert Smith said that he was served with a cease and desist on the test.
Not from us.
From Conor Benn?
No, he had WBC confirmed to the British Boxing Board of Control that under their process, the test results are confidential. That has nothing to do with making a decision. The ruling that the British Boxing Board of Control came up with was that it's not in the best interest of the sport. They could have made that decision on the day. You tell me. They've received 2 failed tests. Should they have stopped the fight when they received that information?
In my opinion?
Yes.
Yes, well, I didn't get served with a cease and desist.
No, Rob, a cease and desist. You've got a decision to make. They made their decision under that ruling. That ruling is so wide, they can make that decision at any time they want. They're scared to make a decision? It's bullshit. Anyone else? For the 8th month, for every day for 8 months?
Do you feel like there's a bit of a witch hunt against you? You're obviously defending yourself on TalkSport. You mentioned there's articles been written about you. From your point of view, do you feel like sort of...
What do you think?
Asking you.
What do you think?
Asking you.
There was an article today, there wasn't one mention, I'm not even going to say, I mean you know, you lot know. Frank Warren sits on TalkSport, not one mention about it, you know what I'm saying. So, of course.
Do you feel like, I spoke to Carl Sutherland yesterday at the Wasserman show, he feels obviously hard done by and he didn't want to answer any questions because he said they had no communication. He says, no one gave me a call about anything, we weren't told about stuff on time. Do you think they were a bit hard done by in terms of communication?
I think Carl Sutherland spoke to his fighter and wanted the fight to progress. But we said we have to wait for the board's decision. The board went quiet, they disappeared for a week, they popped back, they disappeared for 5 days, and on Wednesday they cancelled the fight. And as I've said to you, the one mistake I made was coming out, talking to you lot, and having the fucking raving hump, with Calla also having the raving hump, wanting the fight to proceed, as did Chris Eubank Jr. And then we sat in their office and we said, we cannot continue with this fight, or even try to. So we have to take our medicine, we understand the decision. As I've said before, I'll say it again, the right decision, 100% the right decision from the British Boxing Board of Control. Why did it take 5 weeks? You can hide behind letters, you can hide behind whatever you want. If you want to criticise me for waiting for the board's decision, I think you might want to criticise the board for not making a decision for 5 weeks.
If I speak to Robert Smith, I'll speak to him.
Well, okay. Well, he speaks to everybody else. Might not like you. Be the first good bit of judgment he's had. Anybody else? Fucking whatever you want.
Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, free on DAZN. I mean, you must be delighted with that.
The thing is, it's not a hatchet job, but we don't want to acknowledge Anthony Joshua on April the 1st, April the 8th, Bam Rodriguez going for a 2-division world championship, plus 4 against Magdaleno, plus unified world championship with Akhmadaliev, 2 weeks later in Cardiff, one of the best fights cards we've ever seen, top to bottom. Rakhimov against Cordina, great card as well. Then we go to Guadalajara. Oh, by the way, Tank against Ryan Garcia is part of your subscription as well. Then we go to Guadalajara for the homecoming against Britain's John Ryder. Yeah. Right, then we've got Katie Taylor fighting in Dublin for the first time ever, fighting 2 undisputed champions. And then tonight we announce Wood Lara. And you don't think it's a hatchet job, but that's not a great schedule. Who is putting on a schedule like that? Quiet now. Correct, am I right?
No, I want to put this
right.
Anyway, you've recently added a new world championship stable in Sonny Edwards. How soon have you seen the likes of Bam Rodriguez, El Rey, Chok?
I think what it is, Raheem, is I don't want him to fight at a certain level. I feel like if you stay there for too long, you're not going to get the best out of the fighter. You're going to get the best out of Sonny Edwards against Julio Cesar Martinez and Bam Rodriguez. Julio Cesar Martinez fights May the 6th. So it's probably a little bit late to wait for him, but Bam fights on Saturday. I know Robert Garcia and Bam Rodriguez will fight Sonny Edwards next. We've got that June 10th date, which could, was supposed to be Felix Cash against Ammo. I think we have to rule that out right now. And I think we have to look for a new headline, which could be Sonny Edwards, could be Fabio Wardley, could be Josh Warrington. But I don't want to keep Sonny at that level for too long. I want to see him in the big fights. And I love his mindset, by the way. I never really used to like Sonny Edwards. I think he's really bright. I think he's got a great boxing IQ. And I think when you talk to him sensibly, I think he's a very bright individual. He's a great talker, and I think he's a tremendous fighter.
I've noticed you have a loving relationship with some of your fighters, Sonny Edwards, Derek Chisora. What is it about that chemistry that you have with your fighters?
Because I'm honest. I had it with Dillian White tonight in the toilets. Yeah, not quite like that, but he said to me, like, what's going on? I said, I'll be honest with you, this is what's happening, blah, 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 and, I'm just on it, and same with Derek. Derek says some crazy stuff, but we've looked after Derek. We've always treated, he moans about never getting paid from other promoters, did fights, took years to get paid. We pay him every Tuesday after the fight. We always deliver what we promise. We've given him about 8 or 9 fights when some say we shouldn't have. And then he so anyway, I'm not going to sit here and gas up fighters if I don't feel like they should be. And if a fighter doesn't perform in the way that they should, it's like AJ. I'm not going to sit here and say, unbelievable, solid, not spectacular. You guys know the game well enough anyway.
Talking of Sonny, obviously his brother Charlie's called him out.
Yeah, a bit of a weird one.
That was a weird one, yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Would you make that fight?
I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to break up their brotherhood, but yeah. I think Charlie's moved up. I think Charlie will do his own thing at Bantam, but I think Sonny Edwards has to unify. And I think Frank Warren and George Warren will work with the other champion, the Delakian. There's no reason why we can't get an undisputed champion in that division.
Josh Warrington, what's now going to happen with him now?
Yeah, he's a bit disappointed because I expected Lee Wood to wait for the winner of that fight, but he was just adamant he wants to activate the rematch clause. So that'll be May the 27th. Josh will fight the winner of that fight, but he may choose to fight on June the 10th as well, possibly.
What type of opponent we're looking at for him then, if he's obviously got that weight in the
I mean, look, he's coming off a tough fight against Lopez. Need to be a top 15 guy, but we've got to be careful because the last one we picked was Mauricio Lara. How are we getting on, Dan? Sweating it.
5 minutes. Just on Fabio Wardley.
I thought he was great tonight.
Do you think the stoppage was a bit early?
Yes. I thought Michael Coffey is a very experienced fighter. I think he was catching a lot of the shots, but you have to throw back. And he took one too many, but he was fine. So we always want the show real knockout, but for me, with his experience and his size, I felt like the stoppage was early. As actually did I feel like what was the other fight I thought stoppage was early? Yafai. Same. I mean, the referee says to Yafai's opponent, walk towards me. He doesn't speak English. I mean, he was taking a place to him, but at the same time, he didn't walk towards him, so the ref stopped the fight. But that was I felt like the Wardley fight was a quicker stoppage than.
Of course, David Adelaide has said he would prefer the fight to be on BT. If Frank Warren was to make a considerable offer, would you be happy for Wardley to defend his title on BT?
Yes. But again, I'm not being rude, but I don't think David Adelaide's profile is through the roof fighting at York Hall. Like Fabio Wardley's just boxed in front of him. Tonight, more people watch Fabio Wardley than watched David Adelaide's last fight. Probably about 5 times as many. And he did it in front of 18,000 at the O2, not in front of 800 at York Hall. So, and it was a small show on BT on Friday night. I know the numbers. Pretty, like, it's very, you know, not impressive at all. But I think he's a good fighter. And I love the fight. And I love that he turns up at the press conference. He's got more publicity turning up at a DAZN press conference than he's got his entire career.
How high is Wardley ceiling?
Sorry?
How high is Wardley ceiling?
I think it's impossible to tell, isn't it, with that pedigree. But every time I see him, and I thought one of the things that I liked tonight was the way he looked. You know, the way he embraced the crowd, nice and composed, sharp puncher, exciting, very smart individual as well. And I think, you know, we've got Dakers, Clark, Adelaide, in any order. They're the 3 fights. If he wins the Lonsdale belt outright, going through that opposition, I think it'd be a really impressive slate.
Eddie, you said obviously about Derek Chisora, well no, Derek Chisora said about the Dylan White fight, the trilogy. Would you rather see AJ in there with Dylan White now over Derek?
Yes. Yes. I think that's a poor question. Come on, Jackie.
June 10th is meant to be Ammo versus Cash.
Yes.
Of course, that fight you said is not going to be happening anytime soon. Who would you want to get Ammo in the ring next? What's going to be his career path?
I still feel it was that 14 fight for him tonight, I think. So I thought it was a good performance. I think he's still got a lot to learn, but I really like Ammo. You talk about ceilings. Again, he had a limited amateur career, but he was stopping people in the amateurs. Again, when I need him to settle down with a trainer, he does move around camps a little bit. Obviously, he's had his problems as well. But he's, you know, you give him the call 3 or 4 weeks out, he's always ready. And I think he's an exciting fighter.
Eddie, I see you said Devin Haney will beat Lomachenko comfortably. Do you really believe that?
Yeah, definitely. I think he'll win every round.
Eddie, Devin Haney, I believe, is out of contract after Lomachenko.
That's why I said he'll win every round.
Yeah. So obvious question next then. He's always spoke very highly of you, even when he did go to Top Rank, because for him he said it's always about the belts, but when he was with you, you did everything you said, paid him well, etc. You'll be looking to link up with Devin, providing him so everything
Depends on the money. You know, I mean, look, we get on great. Like, I met up with him in Vegas the other week. He'd love to, he misses us, he'd love to be back with us, but if he's getting more money elsewhere, I'm sure he'd love to be there as well. But Devin Haney's on a lot of money right now, and it's just, is it the right money? Tremendous fighter. I think the Lomachenko fight's a great fight for him, but I also feel like he'll move to 140 quite quickly after this fight, and then there's some great fights for him up there. You know, everyone seems to be moving to 140, and hopefully we can get Jack Catchwell in the mix. We've got Liam Paro sitting there, Steve Sparks going to fight on the card in Guadalajara, so hopefully someone can get a crack. Against the right opposition, for sure. I mean, the Dillian White fight is a case of, do you go for a stadium or do you put it in the O2? When you get the ticket prices right at the O2, as we've seen with the UFC recently, sometimes it's more economic to do it there. I think it's a great fight for the O2. Obviously, if he's fighting Wilder, if he's fighting Fury, of course.
Eddie, has there ever been talks about doing a fight in Nigeria? AJ has talked about it before, maybe.
Yeah, I think he'd love to do it. I think it's just logistically quite difficult. I'd love to do a fight just in Africa in general. I think it would be amazing. When I spoke to Francis Ngannou and we talked about that fight, he liked the idea of doing him against AJ in Africa. I think is it the anniversary coming up for Rumble in the Jungle? Is that next year or something like that?
Sure.
Pretend you knew, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Are there any other territories that you want to sort of move into now? You've putting on shows, you keep saying you're the only global promotion. Is there any other territories you haven't been to yet that you want to do? You've been to Australia, you've met a few shows there. Is it anywhere different?
I feel like Germany was, you know, could be a sleeping giant. I mean, it was a big territory. RTL used to do massive numbers around Klitschko and other fights as well. It just comes down to talent. You know, I don't feel that Germany has a deep talent pool at the moment. Italy's been good, but same problem in terms of the talent pool. Spain, Mexico is fantastic. I mean, it's just great to do shows there. but no immediate territories. Poland is an interesting market. It really, a lot comes down to our broadcaster as well, in terms of where DAZN are active, what sports they have in that territory and what they need to add. Andy?
How did you have a conversation with Babish after you did it in the first
I haven't really spoke to him. I spoke to his team. We put a great bid in for the purse bid. We got beaten in the purse bid. And then we got offered the UK rights to buy the UK rights for April 22nd, but we had Cordina against Rakimov. So we couldn't, unfortunately, buy that, but I wish him all the best, and I believe he can beat Rosansky. I think it's been a good fight. I messaged him the other day. I said, you know, I thought he looked great in camp. And yeah,